on track. So welcome back. We'll be having Mindset 12, Anticipatory Vision, and Glenn and Jeff are both available. We're waiting for Glenn to log back in, so I hope he's joining us. And we'll go ahead and continue. And so, Jeff, go ahead.
Mute button's always a good thing. Okay. Hello again. So we have before us the reactive, proactive, preactive, and anticipatory vision. And I think a great deal of this was based on a book it's called Flash Foresight. I'm suddenly forgetting the author's name. Can you help me out there, Andrew?
That was Daniel Burris. Yep.
Thank you, Daniel Burris. Now, oftentimes, as we combine the concepts from Flash Foresight, but the reactive, proactive, preactive, these terms are, I think, understood. But getting back, I'm gonna be using Brian oftentimes. Like, how do you define that? Reactive. Many of us have been in a reactive place where you're constantly, the fire alarm's going off and you're just responding to it as fast as you can. You can't get ahead. And we're talking about being proactive. People have used proactive in a number of ways, but a good definition of proactive is you are not being reactive. You can see something coming. You're going to do a little work ahead of time to ensure that you can take advantage of a situation. Reactive is that you see it coming from further out, and you could take some time to make sure you're on top of things and you can move forward. And anticipatory is it's coming, and it's based on hard trends and soft trends. A good hard trend is that I think a good example would be with disk space. We know that disk space and the ability to have disk space is going to double. I think it's every 18 months. And processing power, I think, is doubling every 12 to 18 months. We know that people are going to continue to use certain systems, are going to continue to need certain things, such as data. Now, if you're getting into an industry where you're trying to find your way through and make money, investing in data and artificial intelligence, things to make things easier, those are typically hard trends. And soft trends, I'm not coming up with a good example for soft trends at the moment, my brain, but I do know that those soft trends, they seem like they're trends, but they're not moving with a great deal of predictability. Hard trends are more predictable.
Hey, Glenn.
Hey.
Yeah, hey, welcome. And maybe you want to hop in here and share a little bit about what you've run into in this area as well.
Well, I was actually looking at some of my notes, and I apologize. My clock in front of me is different from my computer. So you know how we live in this world of uncertainty, and we have trends of, yeah, that was a soft trend that just failed me. What I was actually thinking, many people have heard in a lot of your other talks and have read it in some of the books. My story that I always use in this space is actually your story, Andrew. It was about Nokia, right? The trend that you saw, where they were with their handheld devices and how they fell into a space of just being constantly reactive in a simple way, right? They were just looking at, let's just stay on top of what we see in the basic simple spaces. And they were never really looking at the overall trends that were in front of them. And you pointed out, hey, look, this is what Apple's doing. And sure enough, within 5 to 10 years, we all know the stories of the acceleration of Apple versus the deceleration of Nokia. So I always think of that. I also look at this, one of the things, and it's underlined with the Kinevin and the Stacy matrix view of these spaces, right? So when we look at, are things simple all the way up to chaotic, or anarchy. What Dr. Burris talked about in the anticipatory organization, as Jeff highlighted at the beginning, is that when you're able to create the right data, the right kind of stories that are related to these trend lines, you get into more of that anticipatory spaces. Because it's great to be reactive, to say, we know we're going to act in advance and we're going to take those, make those motions towards improvement earlier, but to truly do it in anticipatory ways is pretty amazing. So one of the lines that we like to use here, I don't know if you have it on the next slide or not, because I think I gave you the line. There it is. We use this line, and we haven't used this line a long time because we've been kind of working in some other areas as we coach teams. But this idea of data first story and story first data. These will help, at least, again, this is like using that lens, because at every one of those lenses of individual to team to product to organization allows us to say, what is the data we're dealing with? What is the data in each of those lenses dealing with? And again, helping us with our trends. Is the data helping us tell the right story? And can we translate that from the story into the data we need to ultimately give us an understanding of these trends? So that's a little line that we like to use. Again, I haven't used it in a long time, but data first story, story first data.
Yeah.
Or palindrome, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Excellent. And I think you already alluded to the Stacy diagram and the Cynefin. In Europe, they use Cynefin. In the US, they use Stacy. And I have that in white in this picture. And I reversed the direction on purpose, because almost without exception, the chaos and anarchy is always emanating from the organization level. And you get into the very complex parts of the products, and the teams are dealing a lot with the complicated. And as we're breaking it down, if we're using a work breakdown structure or a product backlog or a napkin in order to figure out what it is that we need to get done, we bring it down to the simple level, and hopefully the team members can take that. And as you said, for the story here, data first story.
And I would also highlight that when we think through, be it Cynefin or Stacy, with this view, go back to your original view, with this view, there's another term that folks will come across in some of the other learnings here, is this idea of bifurcation. Is that on the one side, the left side, when we're talking about reactive, simple, the individual team side, right? Over there, we can really focus in on how the Cynefin or Stacy matrix apply. We can really focus there. Yeah. Then when we go over to the product and organizational side, this is where we can apply the reactive, proactive, reactive, anticipatory as a scale, as a matrix, very much more effectively. Because I think a lot of leaders will look at, well, I should be able to apply this in every square, as we normally do in our teachings with these lenses. But in this is a particular one where we split these by saying, look, individual and team, are we working in a simple space? Product is known, our technology is known, our scope is known. Maybe there's some level of complication or complexity, right, as we move up. But we need to be able to, on the product and organizational, really take that different lens to be able to say this is reactive towards anticipatory in a, I can say, just in a different way from a lot of the other views through these lenses.
Perfect timing. Are there questions or comments out there that people might have?
Yeah, this is some good stuff. The story first data, data first story reminds me of a conversation I'm having with a co-developer of some courseware where we're trying to do some forensic data analysis course. And I introduced her to the concept of a simple location-specific planetarium website, where the first thing you do is you go out and look at the stars. And until you bring some context or story to them, you may recognize a couple of those bodies, but you don't until you lay in what is that, what constellation is it a part of. You don't get a fuller picture. And the job, going back to Matt's previous talk, the job as coaches and consultants is to try and bring all those aspects in. You think of the four aspects on the previous slide. If we use Google Maps to navigate, we're using preactive, we're using anticipatory, because I say, if I leave tomorrow at such and such a time, what are the normal trends, either hard or soft, around a major city? So we interact with this kind of stuff all the time, but we don't think of it these ways. So this is a great way to point this out.
Well, and Mark, I would even add here that when we think of, again, thinking through the Kevin and Stacy and adding in this layer, how well do our leaders speak and lead through vision, through their understanding of where they're going in the future? You know, what is their story? If they're using data, as you just highlighted, if you're using real data to tell the right story, and they're doing it over and over and over without being just a broken record, but applying it in the right context and content moments, right? Constantly saying, you know, that connects with vision, or, there's a little bit of our strategic element coming through, right? They're constantly talking about, because we're going to talk about cascading here in a little bit, so I won't steal all that thunder, Jay. But again, there's that connection with how do we ensure that these leaders are truly communicating it in a way that gets us to this right side towards anticipatory. Not about saying we're going to be chaotic. It's about ensuring that our anticipatory reduces the chaos such that we can then work at more simple levels.
Exactly.
Can I just bring up a couple of examples? In terms of anticipatory vision, there was a wonderful video rental agency that they went to the point of this new proactive point of they were mailing DVDs to people and then allowing them to mail them back. However, the hard trend was Moore's Law, as Jeff had mentioned, and they felt streaming wasn't possible. But this company called Netflix just put them out of business because they didn't have anticipatory vision. There was a soft trend that people wanted things now, instantly. But this video company was making so much money on late fees that they refused to look at the anticipatory picture that showed that people really wanted streaming, but they didn't think it was possible. So they went out of business. The other example is that cell phone company, Glenn, that you brought up, that they had the technology in place, but they were perfecting their operational excellence. They were the poster child, I think, of Agile, of Scrum, and they were perfecting their operational excellence, and management wasn't listening to what their knowledge workers said. Hey, our consumers want a touchscreen. We have a touchscreen. In Principles of Lean Agile said, let's at least experiment. Let's get it out there and see what the market wants. But management was so bent on getting more profitability out of a paid-for operating system, they did not want to accept the anticipatory clues that were saying people want a touchscreen. People want to watch a video on this little cell phone.
Exactly, on the bus. That is excellent. We've come into the last minute here, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and we'll see everybody in the next session. Thanks.